partnerships and collaboration are so much about what restorative justice is about, and those words are very encouraging as we continue to build relationships with our justice colleagues. So thank you for those words, and appreciation for you being able to be with us today. We're going to move to the part of our program now that is our plenary session. We're trying to determine as best we can next steps. So we want this to be a very synergistic opportunity. Our plenary speakers will be speaking for 5 minutes each. Again, the microphones are going to be open for comments. Our panel speaker will be Brenda Morrison, who is a professor at Simon Fraser University in the Criminology Department, and she's going to be talking about her research on restorative justice and schools, which has been already published. And the key theme will be restorative practices and the school community, identifying some critical issues for action and advocacy.
Good morning. It's really a great honor to be here. I was born here in Vancouver, but I've been away for about 20 years, and it's great to be back and engaging in yet another, new community. Sometimes I think I have too many communities, but I'm still working on that. Anyways, I think there's great hope and opportunities in the field of restorative justice in schools, and I say that for a number of reasons. One is that I've been working in the area for a long time, and 8 years, I guess now, and I see huge growth internationally. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to a conference in Australia, and a group of practitioners are getting together to form an association, maybe, around the field of restorative justice to support them. It's really not about accreditation or standardization, but a support mechanism for practitioners. So they're mostly Australasians, but there's people from around the world going down, and out of all the different plenaries that are there, I would say more than half of them are restorative justice in schools. So that's wonderful. The other thing that's happening is that in the field of education generally, there's a huge emphasis on doing things better in schools, whether it's about reducing harmful behavior in schools or just engaging students in schools better. There's a huge movement in North America in that direction. And recently, a bunch of us got together and formed a special interest group within a very large organization called the AERA, American Education Research Association. And we formed a special interest group on safe schools and communities. And out of all the people that they elected as program chair, they brought me along. They don't know what they've got themselves into yet, because our learning about restorative justice is quite new. But I think it's a very it's an interesting sort of opportunity, and it's very hopeful for the field as a whole. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do. But the question I was supposed to ask was, what does restorative justice mean to me, and what do I think of? And when I think about restorative justice in schools, I actually think of all the people and the faces that I've met along the way. And in particular, I think of the people that inspired me and carried me on in those very, very early days. And in particular, I think of this one girl, and this is a number of years ago, and I walked into a school in a place called Redfern. And Redfern is not your average school. It's an area that's full of Aboriginal people and an area full of new immigrants. So the sense of connection and belongingness there it's not strong. People are really struggling to find connection and find a way of being and moving forward in this school. So, and with that comes a huge bag of challenges that the school administration must take on. And I went in with a group called the Port Jackson Behavior Team, and they've been using restorative practices in this school for about a year. And we walked into this back sort of area of the school, and I noticed immediately this group in the very back corner of the school. And there seemed to be a little sort of beehive of activity around this one girl in particular. And as soon as she saw the people I was with, she got very excited, and she came towards us. And I thought, wow. And so she's walking towards us. She's very excited. And as she starts to speak, you could tell that she had a very hard time articulating her words. But each of us in that whole sort of group just hung on to every single moment, every word, waiting very patiently to hear the next one and wondering what she was going to say. And subsequently, I found out that this young girl had been participating in a sort of proactive form of restorative justice. It was about school connection. It was based on the AVP programs that we use in prison. It's called HIP. It was a version of HIP. It wasn't, but they had adapted it to their particular school and their particular circumstances, which I think is really important to the whole movement of restorative justice. But this girl became involved in this proactive form because the school felt that she needed a little bit of help, because she was being bullied at school. And in the end, she was the one convening these groups. She was the one sitting in circle with the people that had bullied her, and they were listening to her and listening to every word. And that what I believe happened, and what that whole beehive of activity was about, is this girl gave everybody hope, because they saw her journey. They were part of her journey. And with that, she created this beacon of hope and possibility in her school. So I think, pardon me? 30 seconds, oh my goodness. So I think that's what it's all about. Each of us having our own journeys, and each of us creating our own little beacons of hope in our own communities. But with that, I think there's a few little constraints that go along, because all of it is nested in a bunch of values. And I think, as John Braithwaite has said, there's a continuum of values. Some of them are going to constrain us, and they're really important, because I've seen restorative justice derailed when we think it's just any old circle process. And I've seen great harm in some circle processes when they're not grounded in the values. At the other end of the sort of value scale that John Braithwaite has put forward, he talks about emergent values, those things that emerge from those very set, from the circle processes when they're constrained by those initial value sets. But it's unprogrammable. And I've heard people talking about, we're going to design a curriculum on forgiveness. It's unprogrammable. That comes from being together. It doesn't come from a program or even a set of practices. It comes from a set of values. So at the same time as I see great hope, we have to remember where we're coming from and what we want to share together in our values. Thanks. Sorry.